All right, so this is a working FTIR. We have two accessories with it. We have a transmission accessory and an ATR, attenuated total reflectance accessory. The transmission accessory is something you may or may not have used before, as this technique is actually becoming, it seems less commonly used. Okay, that's broken. Less commonly used than it used to be, simply because ATR is so much easier. So we can take off that cover. So a transmission accessory, the IR light passes through the sample. So with a transmission accessory, you can do a couple of things. You can make a KBR pellet. We have a number of different pellet presses where you combine a little bit of your powder sample with some powdered potassium bromide, grind them in a mortar and pestle, and press them so that they make an almost transparent salt sort of window. The other thing we can use are some salt plates like this. If we have a liquid sample that you can combine with these salt plates, this is a thing you can do. It's better to use a liquid sample holder for that. This is really useful for a Nudral mol. A Nudral mol is where you take mineral oil, mix your sample in the mineral oil, and smear that sample between two of these salt plates. And then put the salt plates on a holder like this and put that inside the instrument. The light passes through and you're able to obtain an IR spectrum. One of the things that I want to say is if you're using the salt plates, be very careful with what you rinse with, because anything aqueous will dissolve those plates, deform them, and make them not work as well. I think that's part of the reason why transmission isn't used so much anymore. So here's our ATR accessory. If you look very closely at that little circle there, that's a diamond crystal. That is where you place the sample. If it's a liquid, you can just put a couple of drops there with a dropper or a Pasteur pipette and run the sample that way. If you have a powder, you sprinkle some powder on, press this down, and that pushes the sample down onto the diamond crystal, make sure it has good contact, and then you can run the sample that way. ATR is very nice because the light bounces up into the sample and back down, and then onto the detector. The path length is very small, and so we can analyze aqueous samples with an ATR accessory, where that's not feasible with transmission because the path length is much larger. So we can just sort of take a look at this instrument. It's really cool because the case is clear. There's not very many of these that were made, so we're actually kind of lucky to have one of these. There's not much to look at though. A lot of electronics and things like that. You can't really see many of the optics. They're all housed inside that metal housing in there. Okay. Power switch, one tap for on, green light's on, red light is off. Okay. Very easy to use.